Hey everyone, and welcome back to our series looking at how to choose a gang in Necromunda. In our first episode, we looked at all the key mechanics, skills and stats that make up a ganger and the gangs themselves and help define the gameplay styles that they will create. And in this second episode, we're going to be looking at our first set of gangs, which are the house gangs. Now these are the gangs that are affiliated with the High House of Necromunda. So you have Cawdor, Delaque, Escher, Goliath, Orlock and Saar. Most of these have been around since the beginning of this game's origination, and as such, they have a lot of history, a lot of lore, and a very defined set of mechanics and gameplay style. So, if you're ready, and I'm ready, I think there's nothing else to do but roll the tape. So now, as I go through each of the gangs in turn, I will try and give you an overview of their key mechanics, their skills and stats attribution, the way they do their leadership and hierarchies, and hopefully together all of that will give you an understanding of their unique gameplay style. Now, I'm not perfect and I will miss things, so if you have any questions or you want to add something, please put that in the comments below, and if I don't have the answer, I'm sure someone else out there will. So, onto the houses. Now first up you've got your Cawdor. The overview is, they're your religious zealots. I mean, they absolutely crazed fanatics of the God Emperor. This gang of witch hunters will just run rampages across the battlefield screaming, burn the heretic as loud as they can. I mean, you can't get more 40k than that. Now first up, you can make two types of ganger with them. You can have your basic Cawdor, or you can have your go hard or go home redemptionists. And that choice is dependent on how hard you want to go for that zealotry. Now, how do they play? Basically, fire! I mean, they love it, and they have AoE attacks up the wazoo. Get these old school templates out and burn the heretic on mass scales. And they do it for pretty much nothing, because they're cheap, and that's their gameplay style, craze. They don't have great intelligence, they don't have the best weapons, but they make up for it in numbers and faith. And talking of faith, that's why we've got to talk about their specialist skill set. Because as I mentioned, each gang has a specific set of skills and a specific set of mechanics they can use to develop their unique playstyle. And for the Cawdor, it's all about faith. Their piety skills are all thematic to keeping your gangers on the field longer, basically defining that their faith sustains their need to burn the heretic longer, and their mechanic, which is called the Articles of Faith, adds to this, and this is defined by their leadership's choice. They can choose from 4 different options. The Faithful, which gives you defensive buffs. You've got the Fanatic, which is all about combat and getting to it. The Doomed, which, content warning, is all about sacrificing your gangers to damage others. And finally, the Redeemer, which is all about nerfing your opponent's actions and buffing your own. These all work by gaining dice through rolls each turn based on how many players are up, and then you roll these dice in the pool you generate after every turn to gain one of these acts of faith. And all of these have great names like, and the word fell upon them and they were broken by it, and he stood defiant on the mountain. So if you want to be that player who stares your opponent dead in the eyes and shouts crazy shit at them, then this is the gang for you, because that pretty much is their gameplay style. I love them, they're insane. So next up you've got the Delaque. Their overview is they are the sneaky bastards with psychic powers that are the secret keepers to the hives. Their style of play is directly linked to this concept. They employ a skill choice of cunning and agility, and that is their basis. Things like Infiltrate allow you to position your players deep into the board straight from the bat, rather right on the edge. And their stats generally err on the side of good weapon and ballistic skills, but as you move down the leadership, these get supplemented for more movement and initiative type stats. So unlike the Eschers, who are more fast and springy, these folks won't stand up well in a fight, so you've got to get them in and get them away quickly. which is where their specialist skills and mechanics come in to help with this. Their special mechanic is called Psychoteric Whispers, which gives your gangers the choice of 3 types of abilities. 1, Madness, which messes up the activations and abilities of other gangers, or you've got Delusions, which can have you taking control of the minds of other gangers. And finally, Darkness, which basically turns out the lights and lets you get up to that sneaky. This, along with their specialist skill set of obfuscation skills, that's a really hard word to say, obfuscation skills, is what puts the meat on the bones on this gang. These are the things that allow your gangers to get up close and personal and then get away quickly without getting hit back, because they don't have the brute strength of the Goliaths, and they don't have that get up and go agility of the Eschers. So if you like your James Bond or Batman with squids and psychic abilities, then pretty much these are the gang for you. The Eschers. Now, as mentioned in our first episode, these are your all-female super punks whose male line has been depleted through generations of genetic meddling. Their specialisms are in chemical weapons and stimulants, as well as making really cool las weapons. With that, they get access to specialist weaponry like chem throwers, which can blast out large AoE attacks, as well as poisons that can offer lasting and irrevocable damage to your opponents, as well as stimulants that give them brief bonuses to your gangers to help them perform tasks and actions during gameplay. And so with that, their main playstyle is fast. You've got to use their high movement scores, their great weapon skills, and their large number of attacks to effectively and efficiently overpower your opponents as quickly as you can. Or you can use their large AoE attacks to try and quell larger numbers of players, but that is their sort of secondary option. As you've got to be fast because they are quite fragile. With some of the lowest toughness and cool scores in the game, they can be downed and off the board pretty quickly. However, their agility, finesse, and combat skills all work to overcome this slightly, but really it's down to the luck of the dice. As mentioned, their specialist skill set is finesse, so more refined combat and movement skills so they can jump over players for nothing and be more adept at fighting. Death Maidens are basically the extreme end of the spear, super fast multi-attack murder zombies. And if you want to go down that more fast and dirty melee route, you've got to take these in your gang. Their gangers themselves may not be cheap, but they get cheaper access to las weapons that basically mean they are not too expensive overall either, with some decent weaponry to boot. This also hits harder than other gangs because as gangs progress, they get access to greater and greater weaponry, whilst the Eschers pretty much start out with a good set of weaponry, but it doesn't develop as quickly as the others. So all in all, if you like fast, roguish characters and all that type of play, the Eschers, they're your go-to gals. The Goliath, they are your classic brutes. They are the forge leaders of the workforce that build Necromunda in raw power. They're not intelligent, they're not going to command a psychic thought between them, but they will knock down anything that gets in their way. I mean, the only thing that's probably greater than that are the corpse grinder cult, and we'll get to them later. They are built like brick shithouses. They have amazing strength, amazing toughness, they don't run from fights easily, they have great close range and melee weapon skills, they are basically a wrecking ball. But there's a catch, you've got to be close to be effective and you ain't fast. However, you are like one of those baddies in a horror film. You just keep plodding along until your enemy runs down a dead end and you've got them. They are also very expensive, which means you won't have the numbers, and as I said, that can be critical in a game of Necromunda. So you've got to play smarter than they look. And also with low intelligence, they are like a D&D party where they are broken by a locked door. Goliaths get specialist skills in the form of muscle skills. Yeah, I'm not quite a Goliath. Which basically gives you more brute, more toughness, more raw. And on top of this, their key mechanic is called gene smithing, which allows you at character creation to choose one of 3 options for a gene birth. So you can either have vat-born, nat-born, or unborn. Vat-born is the basic, and the other 2 can be bought for extra cash. And all in all, they all just offer you different types of upgrades in exchange for some form of drawback to your stats, or your skills, or your abilities. All in all, if you like to be wild, ferocious, and have massive muscles, and you want to kick the shit out of anything that gets in your way, no questions asked, then this is the gang for you. The Orlocks. They're your basic bunch of boys and girls. They're the ones that run the mines and the industries of Necromunda. They are the us against them gang. They may not be the best equipped, they may not be the most lethal, and they may not be the most strong, but what they lack in skill, they make up for in swathes with hard work and gumption. And talking of gumption and grit, they have the only ganger with 3 wounds, which means they just keep on trucking. And yes, that is a pun, while others don't. And that's their key, their versatility. Because when they go up against a foe, they may not beat them at their own game, but they can beat them at their weaknesses game. So when they go up against the fast attack gang, they can be stronger. And when they go up against the strong brute gang, they can be faster. And that's the trick. You just gotta play to your opponent's weaknesses. It's kind of fun. But they're saying that they're incredible at short range attacks, with access to high quality weapons like melters and flamers from the off, plus a lot of early weapons are discounted. However, this is offset by quite expensive specialists, so you've just got to be careful about how you balance the sheets. Their long range game though does fall short, pun intended, which means if your opponent can get away from you quick and fast, you are at a disadvantage. However, you have prospectors who have jump boosters, which can just run across the battlefield. Their skill selection is ferocity, leadership, and savant for the leader. Their specialist skills are bravado, which are considered not great and are basically savant-like skills in better abilities at certain weapons, keeping others cool, contacts with guilds for cheaper hangers-on, and bounty hunter hires, etc. So in review, they're your all-rounders. If you enjoy adapting your tactics to your opponent's game, then this can be a really fun way to get into the gang, as well as if you just want to give the little guy a boost, or you love that idea of us against them, or you just love denim, then Orlocks are the gang for you. Finally, the Saars. Secret access to ancient technology that's giving them radiation poisoning offers them the advantage on the battlefield in the form of awesome tech and weaponry at a distance, but get up close and personal and they fold like a wet paper towel. And they are really good at shooting. Their baseline stat for their gangers is a 3+ ballistic skill, and for the leaders 2+, which means the leaders only have to roll a 2 or more on a d6 to hit, which means they're probably going to hit. They have really cool weapons and tech, so if you like your game very cyberpunky and your gangers to look as such, this is the one for you. They also have really cool abilities, like they can choose to forego their movement to do more shooting, which means they can just stand there popping off shots before the other gang has even stopped tying their shoelaces. However, this all comes at a cost, 20+ creds on top of any baseline ganger, which means less gangers, and as I've said before, less gangers means more chance of losing the game, because a few bad dice rolls and you could be down to half your team really quickly. And also they are slower than a Goliath, which, I mean, if you thought about radiation poisoning, I guess that's what happens to you, so kids, be careful out there. And that slowness can get further infuriating if the game is all about capturing a target or objective-based scenarios, because you just can't get there quick enough. Yet if you do, you can then stay there and stand there popping off shots from a distance, but that leads us onto our other problem, long lines of sight. If you're in cramped conditions like in Zone Mortalis, you can have your main gameplay style taken from underneath you. And furthermore, if people put obstacles in your way, you might as well just walk off the board now because you're done. But it's really in their Cybernetica that they take on their own class, where at creation you can buy Archaeotechs, get one for free, they're one of the champions. One upgrade to a body part that you can injure in the game with augmented tech that offers you a bonus in relation to that part's ability. They have 3 levels of power, which can all be upgraded and bought as you gain experience and creds. And if you have an injury to that part of the body, you can supplement healing for an augmentation instead, which is really cool. So Ocular gives you infrasight, see-through walls, Cranial stops mental effects like insanity or intoxication, Torsonic upgrades let you apply 3 damage instead of 1 to unarmed combat, for example. On top of this, they have tech skills, which are their specific skill set that they can have access to. They're not considered to be that great, and they pretty much apply similar effects that the Cybernetica does anyway, so take them or leave them. So in review, I think there are 2 reasons why you would go for the Saar. Firstly, from a thematic point of view, because you want your cyberpunk to be truly cyberpunk. You want cybernetic upgrades, cool tech, cool gear, awesome weapons, and that's the choice. Or from a gameplay perspective, and that's if you want to go down that more shooty, long-range game, because really that's all there is to it. And that's all your house gangs. Next time we'll be looking at the non-house gangs, which I'm defining as those that GW have offered a series of rule sets and lore for within the world of Necromunda. Unlike the independent gangs that we'll be looking at after that, which are the ones that have a series of options that you can choose from to create your own type of gang with any model or idea you want. And so those non-house gangs we're going to be looking at next time, so you know, are going to be the Corpse Grinder cult, which are basically a cannibalistic chaos cultists who eat their way through their opponents. The Gene Stealer cult, which are the Tyrannid pre-invasion Sow-Seeds of Destruction gang. We've also got the Palatine Enforcers, which are the Judge Dredd-like Super Imperium police force that roam the streets of Necromunda. The Nomads and Prospectors, which are all the beings and denizens that live in the Ash Wastes, as well as the Ogryn clans, which are the huge, hulking, brutish force of beasts that you can just take on any foe with. So I hope to see you next time, and in order to make sure you do, why don't you press like, subscribe, and hit the little bell for the notification for when that video comes up. And in the meantime, you take care of yourself in the Underhive. See ya.